Let's start there with Jay Bilas, ESPN college basketball analyst. Your thoughts on Russell Westbrook going to the Lakers?
I love it. I think it's going to be great to watch, and teaming up with AD and LeBron, it should be really fun. I mean, I don't differ with anything you're saying. Uh, Westbrook's got to kind of live with his record, but he's a gamer, man. We all watched him in college, but I remember Ben Howland telling me that his freshman year or sophomore year in high school, he couldn't dunk. And then he was this freak athlete. I was like, he couldn't dunk, really? Just an amazing player.
But what do you remember about that? Because he was 1 year at UCLA. But do you remember anything special about him that you thought would translate to the NBA?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I wasn't sure he was going to be taken number 4 overall, but you knew he was a lottery pick and would be a great player just because of his incredible athleticism. And I remember him being a really quiet young player. And but he was a thrill to watch. And heck, those UCLA teams back then, they went to 3 straight Final Fours, and he was certainly part of that. But they had a bunch of great players, Kevin Love and Westbrook. I mean, it was an awesome group to be around. But
Jay just froze up. So we'll see if we can get him back. Yeah, because you I remember when Kevin Love came out and was drafted, and Paulie and I were having a discussion. Oh, Jay is back there. Did you realize Kevin Love was something special back then as well, Jay?
For Kevin Love now?
Yeah, back then at UCLA.
Oh, yeah, because he was like a crazy rebounder. I mean, he wasn't in the kind of physical condition he is now, where he's, really thin and cut. He was a little heavier. But I remember being at practice one day at Pauley, and the players had left the floor, and I was sitting out with Ben Howland, and he was telling me that Kevin Love could throw a chest pass from the baseline into the opposite basket, 94 feet. I'm going, oh, there's no way. And he sent a manager in to bring Kevin out, and I think he made 7 out of 10. And it was, if you or I did that, we would maybe get it to the opposite free throw line. And he's making buckets from I still have never seen anything like that.
You worked the draft last night. You certainly love Cade Cunningham. What does he do? You said he didn't have that freakish athleticism, but what is it that he does so well that makes him so special?
He really does check every box that you would have for a player. He doesn't have any weaknesses. I think he's a lot like, maybe because it's Detroit, you start saying, well, he has a lot of similarities to Grant Hill, except at that age, he was, Cade Cunningham's a far better shooter than Grant was. I think he's more skilled and more polished, but a lot of players are now. Like, the players are way ahead of where they were years ago. But the one thing he doesn't have is that, he's a great athlete, but he's not a freak crazy athlete like Grant was. That's the one difference. But because of the way, he shoots over 40% from 3, he's got every move to get his own shot. He's a ridiculously good passer, handler, and he's got the ability to make plays when it counts. And he's not only is he not afraid of it, but he kind of gets what he's supposed to do in those moments. He and Jalen Suggs of Gonzaga, who was taken 5th, I think, to Orlando, I think have similarities there that end of games. They're fierce competitors in addition to being really good players.
When you start to look at the draft, let's say 20 years ago, is Evan Mobley the first player taken?
Not 20 years ago, because that was LeBron's year, wasn't it? 2003.
Oh, no, that's style. I mean, a big man. Let's say in a different.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I misunderstood. Yeah. Evan Mobley would have been one, and same thing with last year, James Wiseman. He would have been one. We just, everybody thought differently back then, and the game was different. And honestly, Dan, it took me a while, and still taking me a while to wrap my head around. I still kind of lean toward a big guy when you're making some of those decisions.
Oh, he was going to nail that too. He's frozen, ready to say decision.
Elite NBA skills. over just being really good in certain areas. But I've gone away from that too, because smaller guys do really well now.
But also, I look at the Greek Freak, and I thought the difference in the NBA Finals was he went low. He went down low, and nobody could guard him there. Whereas they had him on the perimeter, bringing the ball up, occasionally shooting a three. I wonder if there's going to be a team that just says, you got to deal with us, and this is how we play, and almost be counterintuitive to what the new NBA is all about. Can you see a strategy like that?
Yeah, but I don't think you're going to see somebody say, okay, let's go back to the way the Houston Rockets did it in the 80s and have twin towers, and we'll put them down the low blocks and play high-low and clog everything up. Now you have to. That's why I differ with people that say that the Golden State Warriors couldn't hang with the Jordan's Bulls or anything like that. I believe they could, because the game's so different. It's more spread out. They're more three shot. And I think spreading out those, and then you start asking, okay, who would Bill Cartwright have guarded? There are a lot of questions that would have to be answered, and it's not a no-brainer that this team would win just because players were tougher back then and they were better competitors and all that. They act like nobody called fouls back then. It's just flagrant fouls were allowed, and like, oh my God, these skinny guys couldn't have made it, as if George Gervin and Reggie Miller didn't play. And remember, Steve Kerr played in those games too. He kind of laughs at this stuff too about today's player not being able to hang back in the day.
But who do you think would be more shocked if Jordan's Bulls were facing the Warriors, but they had no idea the style the Warriors played, or the Warriors would be playing Jordan's Bulls in the style that they play or the physicality? Who would have the harder time kind of adjusting to what they're seeing, what they're experiencing?
Well, I think the Bulls would have a little bit of a harder time because of the amount of threes that were being shot and how spread out everything is, and the movement that you see now, and there's more passing than back in the day. So I think look, they'd both be shocked in a way. It depends who's reffing the game, by the way. They going by the old rules or the new rules. Yeah. When you could flagrant foul. I don't know if you saw this, but it's kind of funny. It was something on social media the other day about the opening of the NFL today, back when Brent Musburger, Nerve Cross, and Phyllis George were on it. And somebody had said that everything they showed in there is now illegal in football. Like the stuff that, all the highlights they showed, illegal. And so every game has changed, and they've just taken, like basketball's just taken out flagrant. They the stuff that caused fights, they haven't taken out, fouls. They still called fouls back in the day.
I'll leave you with the state of college basketball with what's happening in football. How is that going to impact college basketball? We froze up again. We'll leave that question.
To the conferences,
there you go.
The conferences are going to take it.
Oh, yeah. Well, you froze up here. So,
I'm sorry.
Yeah. What do you think is going to happen with college basketball?
Well, it's going to remain healthy as long as the NCAA tournament does. But I think we're going to see the big shots play the big shots more often, and we're not going to see as many, intersectional games against directional schools, just like we're seeing in football. But basketball is going to follow what football does, and you're going to see consolidation of power among the big conferences in football, and the big are going to get bigger and more powerful because the NCAA is not going to be policing it anymore, and so the conferences are going to be making all the decisions, and their decisions are going to be how much money can we make, and they're going to make it. I mean, the SEC is going to be making over $1 billion a year very, very soon. And everybody else is going to have to scramble to keep up, and they're going to do it. Like, they're going to do whatever it takes to keep up.
Jay, have a great weekend. Fun watch last night. Thank you, as always, for joining us.
Great being with you. Thanks for having me.
That's Jay Bilas, ESPN college basketball analyst.